Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. I'm getting an update from Trigon Metals, traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol TM, on the OTCQB under the symbol PNTZF, and on the Frankfurt Exchange under the symbol TZU2. I am chatting with Jed Richardson, CEO and now executive chairman, after a recent news release where there was some new leadership team members added for the company. Now, I first, Jed, want to start off with almost recapping a webinar that I hosted back on November 7th, where we talked about the combat mine in Namibia commencing commercial production. Now, that was announced on October 10th. I will post a link to that webinar replay where we went through a lot of questions. There were a lot of people that tuned in, all wondering how this commercial production, how the overall production is running at this combat mine. Let's start off here with a quick little recap of some of the key questions. One of the questions that was asked a lot, and I know is a big focus for investors, is the company in positive cash flow now, understanding this mine just started up at the tail end of October?
Absolutely, yes. We were cash flow positive in our first month in October and look to be cash flow positive again here in November as the month wraps up. We've filled the mill with just over 27,000 tons of ore in October, and then did the same in November, despite November being 1 day shorter, and we're turning a profit. As far as operating costs, we're sitting just under about $3 a pound of copper. So we're doing pretty well here. We'll like to improve that as we keep going. But for a company just starting up at a new operation, we're really pleased. And I'm really celebrating the team that we have at site for what they've been able to do. As far as cash build, we're building cash right now at about half $500,000 a month. So yeah, things are going and growing.
Just a quick question then, in terms of further improving those operating costs, what are some of the aspects, some of the areas that the company is looking at first and foremost?
First and foremost is getting back to underground mining. The combat mine through its history has been an underground mine. We started from the open pit, but the view was always get back to the underground. And we're working on that right now. The plan is to be mining from the underground in April, but we see some ways that that I think we can even improve on that. The key for the underground is grade. Our grade in the open pit is between 1 and 1.2% copper. From the underground, we go up from 2.6 to 3% copper. To kind of put that in, to really understand the impact of that, we also have a strip ratio that's about 7.5 to 8 to 1 when we mine from the open pit. So a ton from the underground is is more than 2 times the grade and requires 1/20th the amount of mining for the amount of metal produced. So it really improves our cost structure. You can see costs sub $2 a pound once we're mining from the underground.
So it seems like you're moving into the underground mining a little bit earlier than you expected here. Are there going to be any major costs associated with this transition to underground?
So really, in our plan, we've got a mill expansion and the underground mining all starting in April of next year. What we're working on is actually just focusing on the underground part, the mining part, and seeing how, if we can bring that in earlier, really get the benefit of that grade, do a slower ramp on the underground mining so we can train all of the staff. How early that is I can't say yet, but ahead of the planned April start. Interestingly, most of those costs we've already incurred. If you look back through the announcements, you'll see that we were able to secure equipment financing through Epiroc. Epiroc is an underground mining equipment provider. We actually now have almost all of that equipment on site. So this is the underground drill rigs, the scoop trams to pull stuff out of the stopes, and the underground haul trucks. So with that on site, we're looking and saying we can get into the underground maybe a little quicker than we planned. Where we still do have some expense is on the mill expansion, where we do still have a good amount of cash on the balance sheet and we're building. What we may do is delay that expansion and in favor of just prioritizing the additional grade so that we can manage this cash. Where we are, I think we're in a pretty enviable position as a company in general. Despite some of the challenges a lot of companies are facing in the market, we have an opportunity to grow our company without requiring any new equity capital in the near term. We want to protect that position. So we can do that by amplifying cash flow with the higher grade ore from underground and just delaying some of the capital expenditures on things like the mill expansion.
Okay, so you're managing your cash here all just with the understanding that, look, you want to get underground, you want to keep generating this cash, but you don't want to have to go back to market to build out and improve on that mill. Let's talk about the dewatering of the mine then. How is that progressing? What are some of the keys that we can look out for?
Yeah, it's going really well. We're down over 180, almost 190 meters now. What is important about that is we have 3 shafts on the property and 2 ramp systems. Where we've dewatered now actually means we have through ventilation between the main shaft and what we call shaft 3 to the eastern end of the property. That through ventilation means that we can bring heavy equipment and start working underground. So it's a key milestone for us. We're looking at that and seeing training can start now. Putting in the forced air ventilation is already underway. We've gotten to a level that we can really start establishing the underground part of the operation. You can keep track, and we'll be putting updates on the water level. But yeah, we've made great progress over the last couple of months.
All right, let's also talk about the Silver Hill project in Morocco. There were a couple questions in the webinar asking about the planned spin out here. What updates can you give us in terms of putting that Moroccan asset in another vehicle?
So the key thing is we are putting together the package for shareholders because it will go to shareholder vote. So that'll be circulated probably by the end of December with a vote in February. We're seeing lots of interest in Morocco. A lot of excitement that's been generated by Aya Silver and Gold. We currently are doing some work at Silver Hill. I'll actually be my last trip before Christmas. I'll be traveling to Morocco next week, working on some of the prep for Adena, the new property that we announced in June. And the idea here is these projects are showing that they can stand alone. They're company making projects in their own right. What they do need to raise some capital around them, and that really doesn't match with what we're doing at Combat, where Combat now is building cash and looking to set its own destiny without the need for raising more capital. So we'll look to spin out those Moroccan projects next year and set them up as their own their own company. What they provided for shareholders, they'll still be able to provide because we'll do that spin out in the form of a dividend to shareholders. So as a Trigon shareholder, you will end up with shares in the main Trigon with the combat mine and shares in Trigon Morocco. One of the questions that I've got in the past is why were they ever part of Trigon? How do you see that matched up? And one thing that through my career, and remember I spent a good amount of time as a research analyst, was that's always been a real winning combination as a company to have a strong asset that's generating cash flow and really setting the destiny of the company by having its own ability to maintain itself and spend on exploration, but then have a second asset that could be a home run. And I do think we've got some home runs in Morocco, but like I said, the spend and the timing don't match well with where combat is, because combat is still going to need some investment over the next few years that it will be able to do so from its cash flow. So that kind of fits into the announcement that we made yesterday, alongside the announcement of Rennie Morkel coming on as President and Chief Operating Officer, and Andy Rumpel coming on as VP Exploration. We also announced the acquisition of the Kalahari Copper Belt project. So this is a Namibian project. It's, again, grassroots exploration, but it is in a belt. It's a huge land position in a belt in Namibia that hosts some of the largest copper deposits in the world. We are on the Namibian side of this belt, and this belt extends all the way from the Congo through Botswana and into Namibia. Notably, just last week, the Komesau copper project was purchased for $2 billion. That project is just over the border from where our ground is in Botswana, and it was purchased by a Chinese group. So this is going to be a bit of a slower build, and I think that will ultimately match better with Trigon, and gives us still that explosive, that potential for that lottery ticket explosive upside through exploration with the Komesau deposit. And having the land package that we were able to secure is really unheard of. This is a massive land package on this belt, and it's a belt that boasts the likes of Rio Tinto and other large scale explorers. So we're really excited about that project.
That makes sense from a corporate standpoint there. The focus in Namibia with the producing asset, and now bringing in what sounds like some more exploration assets to have kind of that twofold aspect for the company, and then spinning out those Moroccan assets. You did introduce this project, but I want to follow up with you in terms of what sort of work is the company going to have to do here? You didn't have to pay a whole lot to take over the company that has an option to earn up to a 70% stake in this project, but you do have a commitment to fund $1 million US in exploration over 2 years following the closing of the deal. What sort of work are you going to start off with at this new asset?
It's going to largely be geophysics to begin with. The structure is undercover. We're going to be working mainly on geophysics. That's how other deposits on the belt have been discovered. So we'll use those techniques, and that'll be how things start there.
And then just a quick follow-up on those new management team members. As you mentioned, President and CEO Rennie Morkel, and then Andy Rumpel moving to VP Exploration. How are these individuals going to help the company continue to grow now as a producer and also these exploration assets?
Sure. Starting with Rennie as Chief Operating Officer, this is really a growing up of the company, I think. Rennie, I like to call him the Tim Cook of Trigon. has got an accounting background, but has only worked in operations at site for multiple top projects around the world. So, started with Anglo American, has worked in the Congo at I believe Katanga. He's got some experience in Namibia with Swakop Uranium, but always at site. So he's really an operations guy. He'll be really setting forecasts, and as we are now a producer, we're going to be reporting quarterly numbers, and this is where Rennie's really going to be making a difference for us as a company. Really adds a level of sophistication to the operation. We'll have a keen eye on cost, which is going to be key for the type of asset that we're operating and the company that we're building. So I'm really ecstatic that we were able to get someone like Rennie. I think he's going to be a great fit. I'm not going anywhere for anybody who was wondering. I'm still going to be very much forward face of the company, but do expect to regularly hear from Rennie, and definitely Rennie will be the voice when we get to quarterly calls. He's down in Namibia at the operation, working alongside our mine manager Fanny Mueller, but he'll be reporting to investors on our quarterly earnings.
Now, just a quick update. What about Andy Rompel, VP of Exploration? He leading the exploration really in country now?
Yeah, this has actually been a glaring hole that we've had. I think we've done really well over the past few years, but having a VP exploration with Andy's caliber is something that this company needs. As much as the story is around our new production, remember, even at the combat mine, exploration is still a huge part of the story. We have a 35-kilometer belt that we're actively drilling. The success that we already had in and around the mine. We've got the targets to follow all along that 35 kilometers, and Andy is a structural geologist, and for those of you who don't understand, that means he is focused on really like what is physically happening with fluid flow to create deposits. This is exactly what we need at Combat. Like we're looking at the mineralization that we've had. We're actually finding mineralization in places that the previous model didn't anticipate mineralization to be. Now bringing on a PhD geologist with a focus on structure is the piece that the piece we need to properly understand what's happening at Combat, and will help lead the exploration. In addition, we'll be using Andy's skills, of course, in the Kalahari copper belt, and he'll be helping us in Morocco as well. So I can't say it enough. As much as we are a producing company now, and we'll be looking, in February for our first quarter of earnings, the heart and soul of the company is still exploration, and bringing on a proper VP exploration with Andy's caliber is actually been a void that needed to be filled.
All right, Jed, thank you very much for this update and following up on some of those questions from that webinar, again, which I will post a link to below this interview. And please, everyone, keep sending me your questions for Jed and the team over at Trigon. I'll get those addressed for you and get Jed back on the show for another update closer to year end. Jed, thank you very much for this update. Hope you have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, Corey.